Hey, how's it going, everyone? This is Dominic from the Comic Book Report YouTube channel, over here doing another guest review for organicpricedbooks.com. And today we've got another omnibus overview for you all, and today, of course, it is the iZombie omnibus. This is a really interesting series that I can't wait to share a little bit about. But before we do, a couple quick things about this book. This volume here has issues written by Chris Robertson and illustrated primarily by Michael and Laura Allred. The comics in this volume were first published under DC Comics' Vertigo imprint beginning in 2010. This omnibus contains iZombie issues 1 through 28 and material from House of Mystery Annual issue 1 and 2. This is an oversized hardcover edition with glossy print paper stock, a glued binding, and it does come in at 672 pages. Something else I do want to mention is that this is released under DC Comics' Black Label, and I'd say largely because there is some language, some violence, but also some instances of nudity and some light sexual situations. I do want to do that disclaimer because I would say reader discretion advised. And with that out of the way, taking a look at this book here, we're just going to be looking at the dust jacket for a minute. This is incredible artwork from Michael and Laura Allred. Mike Allred is the penciler here. Laura Allred provides the coloring. This husband-wife team do a lot of their artwork together, and it's a really, really specific style that I personally love. In fact, that was one of the main draws for me for this title in general was the Allred artwork, and we see it on full display on this incredible wraparound dust jacket. I think that overall the colors are vibrant and lush. Allred's style have a real kind of pop art feel for me. The heavy outlines and animated look to a lot of the character models make everything just pop from the page. I think that there is kind of this hipstery aspect to this whole book, and I think Allred was certainly a great artist to provide the visual storytelling component. And as we finish our quick look at the back cover, I do want to just look at this dust jacket one more time. This time I'll go ahead and take it off. We'll take a look at the interior flaps, and you'll see that all of this is one gigantic wraparound cover, which I think was a really nice artistic touch. After I show you the full dust jacket again one more time here, we will also look at the under the dust jacket artwork, which is actually the same image as the dust jacket, but with all the text and stuff removed, we just have a kind of pure artistic print from the Allreds here in a nice wraparound print on the hardback. I think that these were all really nice features, and I think overall it really sells this book. We have some brains, we have some zombies, we have some other paranormal creatures, and our main character, of course, the iZombie herself, Gwen Dillon. I'll get more into the brief character synopsis and things like that in a moment, but for now, let's just finish our look at this exterior. Again, if you're a fan of the Allred artwork like I am, it's hard to deny the style choices we have here on this cover. Really well done from DC. And after we finish our last look there at the exteriors, I do want to spend a moment just to quickly examine the binding for all those interested. It is a glued binding, and mine is a little bit stiff, but I had no problems reading it because the panel layout had kind of that white outline to it, so I didn't find there to be too much gutter loss or anything too critical happening in that margin. But you'll see as I flip through a bit, and you can make the determination for yourself. I would have preferred a sewn binding on this omnibus, but I think given the panel layout, I'm not really concerned about that gutter loss in the future, and hopefully this book holds up. Okay, and now we can start with the book proper, and as you open the pages, I like the brain end pages. It really is, again, a nice style touch that just further immerses you in this world. We have a title page, some publication information, and then we actually have a fully mapped and page numbered table of contents, which I adore seeing, especially in a modern omnibus. We don't always have that, but this book is properly numbered for the most part, and I think it is fantastic. I really, really love a book that you can really easily index which issues you want to revisit or jump to, and this book definitely gives you that. We start with the snippet from the House of Mystery Annual before diving into the iZombie run proper, that 28-issue run, and it goes by pretty zippily, I will say. Now, I do have a couple of the other Mike Allred drawn omnibuses over at Marvel, and I will say overall the print quality here of the artwork is not as crisp as maybe like the Silver Surfer by Dan Slott and Mike Allred omnibus. I think that the representation of the artwork is maybe a little bit cleaner in that omnibus to this one here, but it's certainly not blurry or it's not muted in any way. It's just maybe not quite as crisp. But again, you can see for yourself, I still think it's a really faithful reproduction here, and I have no really large complaint. It didn't really mess with my storytelling experience whatsoever, and I was still treated to that full, great Allred artwork. Now, a little bit of a primer for this series for those that maybe have no idea what this is even about. I will say I first became familiar with this whole property because of the iZombie television series on the CW network. That was a story about a kind of crime scene woman or kind of doctor lady who became a zombie and ate brains and then had to solve murder cases, essentially, I believe. I only watched a few issues. Anyway, I knew it was based on a comic book, and I was curious to check that out someday, and in comes this opportunity here with this reprinted omnibus at DC. And I will say, while there are essential ideas that remain the same between this and the television show, this is a completely different animal. We do have a young woman who has died and is now a zombie. She too has to eat brains every so often so that she doesn't degrade into a more zombified state. When this occurs, she does get memories of the deceased, and sometimes she will try to right wrongs or kind of honor last wishes of these dead folks. But that is really where the series similarities end, and that's where this comic book series goes its own way. In this world, the main character here, the zombie in question, is a character, Gwendolyn, although she goes by Gwen Dillon, first name, last name. She lives in this town in Oregon that is kind of this hipster, punk, cool town, and she's friends with all of these other kind of supernatural, paranormal-like figures, like a ghost of someone who died in the 1960s, and another character who is not a werewolf, but is rather a were-terrier. That's right, I talked about were-terriers. This is a quirky, kind of fun, offbeat book that is filled to the brim with all of these kind of strange, cryptid, paranormal, supernatural figures, monsters, creatures. We may or may not have creatures like vampires, things that are inspired by kind of Cthulhu, Lovecraftian kind of ideals, mummies, and many, many more. Something novel I really like about this series is that while we have a lot of these horror-like characters and tropes, this is by no means a horror series, at least in my mind. While there is some violence and some blood and some disturbing images, overall, it does not really come across as the horror genre, at least to my mind. No, this is really more of a slice-of-life character drama that does eventually go into more of a thriller, save-the-world, supernatural kind of aspect. But because of that, it really plays with a lot of different genre and tone in a really surprising way to me. I really feel like this would have been the fun comic to collect as it was coming out if you were kind of a hipster kid. I don't know if that's offensive, I hope it's not, but I think it is kind of a fun alternative title that maybe everyone wasn't picking up at the time. To have it all in an omnibus and to read the breadth of it cover to cover was definitely an experience I will remember. I do love that all red artwork for me. I think that is the first primary draw to me for this book overall, and I think it is really the lasting thing that it made the most impact for me reading this whole book. The writing is by no means poor, but it didn't really grab me as much as some series may. I do think some of the strong selling points beyond the artwork are really the characters we get. You are absolutely rooting for this cast of characters. They're interesting, compelling, the dialogue feels true. These characters just feel real, and that's one of the best compliments I can give a work of fiction. I do also think the experimentation with tone, given everything that's going on and the story mechanics, is certainly fascinating. To make a story like this have a kind of slice of life aspect to it, I think was really a masterstroke by the creators, and I will always think that that is interesting. I personally, not liking explicit materials in my comics, was not a fan of the nudity we had at a couple points throughout this book. It wasn't overly graphic, but it was a little bit too much for my taste, and in many cases I think was absolutely superfluous. It's something I again want to mention for those that, like myself, like to avoid, more adult content in your work here. Again, it wasn't too graphic or anything, but it was a little bit over for me. I tried to remove any instances of that for this overview, but I just wanted to include that for those thinking about picking this up. I think if you are a fan of zombies, this is definitely an interesting take on the kind of mythos and idea, and there were certainly some memorable storylines for me in this book. I won't give you any more spoilers than that here, though. Just wanted to give you the general idea of the book so you can decide for yourself. At the back of the omnibus, we do have a handful of extras, including kind of an essay, along with some different covers, some behind-the-scenes kind of art. We also do have an interesting thing for fans of the television show. The Allreds were actually commissioned to do the art for the title sequence of that show, and we have a little bit of behind-the-scenes on that in this omnibus's extras, which I thought was one of my favorite extras I've seen in an omnibus in a while. It was just very cool to see, especially being a fan of the Allreds. And other than that, that's really the iZombie Omnibus, the 2023 reprint from DC Comics. Let me know if you're planning to pick it up or what you think of this series in the comments. If you want a fuller spoiler review of this series, you can definitely check out my channel, The Comic Book Report, or to pick up your own copy of this omnibus, please check out organicpricedbooks.com. Thanks for watching, everyone, and until next time, have a good one.